All right, we're back in the science tutorial lab. This time we're looking at blood vessels. All right. Cat and man are a little bit different, just a little bit differently, and I'm gonna point out some of those differences. All right. Starting with the cat, we see that we got blue and red lines. We know that blue is going to be vein and red is going to be artery. Blue is focusing on blood returning back to your heart, whereas red is oxygenated blood leaving the heart, going systemically to give us oxygen. All right. So let's start with some of these veins. Look at this, what looks like a Y. We have like a Y shape. Each line represents something, okay? And we're going to refer to this as right and left. So like starting with the stem of the Y, that's going to be the right brachiocephalic vein. This is going to be the left brachiocephalic vein. All right? The two in the middle, the two blue lines in the middle, are your jugulars, left and right. Okay? And then underneath where the clavicle, like you can imagine that bone right there. So it's underneath it, it'd be subclavicle. So you would be right and left subclavian, or however you want to pronounce it. Here we have some, we'll just start down here. All right, and so then you have the superior vena cava, superior to the heart, vena cava. You have the inferior vena cava, sorry, a little hard to see there, but there it is right there. Now, once we pass through the diaphragm, the vena cava doesn't get a new title or anything. It's still just the inferior vena cava. All right, a little bit different with our arteries. So let's go back up here to our arteries. You have the heart, and then right here, right off of the beginning, that's your aorta. All right, it's kind of like a candy cane. It comes up, ascending aorta, aortal arch, and then you got the descending aorta. All right, once you go through the diaphragm, it all of a sudden gets like this new name. All right, so once we come through that diaphragm, now it's the abdominal aorta. Okay, coming back up here to the top, so from our arch, you've got this first little part here. Okay, notice that it's about to break off. You know what I'm saying? So just like here, that little part, and then it breaks apart. So this is going to be the brachiocephalic. From there, I just want you to look at it like this. You've got two in the middle and two on the outside. My two in the middle are going to be my right and left common carotids. All right. When we use the word common, that means it's about to bifurcate into internal and external. All right. On the outside is our left and right subclavians, arteries, not veins. Okay. The difference between the human and man, so this is what this paper is going to represent. So with our human, we have the aortic arch, you have a brachiocephalic, and instead of it turning into three separate branches, like our kitty cat here, you're only going to have the right subclavian and the right common carotid. Okay? Not really that good to see from. All right, and then you're going to have the left common carotid and then the left subclavian. The thing is that I want you to just look at it as our two middles are the common carotids, and then our two outs are the subclavians. And then when you have like the little stem, this looks like a Y, that's the brachiocephalic. And so down here on the cat, basically you have the brachiocephalic, the two inside is your common carotids, and then the two outside is your subclavian. So hopefully that reduces some of that confusion. All right. Okay, moving on down, something that they like to ask. So I kind of want you to look at this. Is great. 1, 2, 3. Okay. The very first artery that branches off, like from the aorta, the abdominal aorta after diaphragm, is the celiac. The celiac. The celiac is going to go three ways, all right? It's going to go to your spleen, so you're going to have splenic. It's going to go to your stomach, that's going to be gastric. And it's going to go to your liver, and it's going to be hepatic. Actually on here you can see that a little bit better. So you have your very first artery off the abdominal aorta after the diaphragm, like here's your diaphragm. So here's that three-way, that celiac goes three ways, splenic, gastric, hepatic. You can run those lines, okay? Then you're going to see that 1, 2, those 2 other major lines. That's just superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric, okay? So 1, 2, 3, celiac, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric. From there, we could look at the kidneys. You got the renal artery, renal vein, and then down here it's like you got a few triangles. A little bit different from the human. Let's start with the cat. So it's kind of like we have a triangle on the outside and a triangle on the inside. It's not that bad. External iliac artery, and then you have internal iliac artery. All right. Human, just a little different, because here's our abdominal aorta, and then you have this area right here, which is going to be the common iliac artery. Okay, remember that we said common means we're about to split. All right, so we have the right common iliac artery, and then we're going to have internal and external. Left common iliac artery, and then you have external and internal. Complete way of saying it is like left external iliac artery, left internal iliac artery. Okay, so it's not that bad. That external iliac artery is going to come down here and become the femoral artery. Then you have the popliteal. Then you're going to have the tibialis anterior artery. And actually, I'm just kind of bringing out the ones that I say most commonly, but of course, what I tell you is just supplemental to what you're already working on. All right. I like to point out this one. It's at the head of the humerus. We know that a fancy way to say head is cephalic, so this is the cephalic vein. I also like to point out this big blue guy, and that's the great saphenous. All right, they tend to take this one out when they do some type of cardiac bypass and use it to replace arteries, which is pretty cool. All right, so I think that kind of covers the gist of it, but of course you have a lot more to do on your own. Good luck.